Fork Parker's Crunchout is a management game released by Megacat Studios and Devolver Digital for the Super Nintendo in 2018. It's a game that pokes fun at real-world modern gaming monetization and ruthless development practices, where you play as Fork Parker, the fictional, I'm pretty sure he's fictional, CFO of Devolver, as you chase down the latest stupid gaming trends and ignore what gamers actually want to play. Devolver is a publisher that frequently openly comments on the various bullshit in the games industry, and they speak with the voice of a regular cynical gamer rather than a faceless megacorporation. They're kind of the Wendy's Twitter account of the gaming world, if we pretend that Wendy's sold like craft beer instead of crappy fast food. For example, there's a page on their website called Can I Monetize, and it just says yes. They frequently put out retro-styled games, not just like retro franchises like Serious Sam or retro-ish graphics like Hotline Miami, but gameplay-focused games that aren't AAA, trend-following popcorn blockbusters. Basically, putting out a real physical SNES game while the rest of the industry is snapping at Fortnite's heels and making the 10 millionth open world game is exactly the kind of thing that they would do. Crunchout is a management game, a lot like Diner Dash. You have tables of developers, and it's your job to keep them working. There are 4 different status effects. If they're sleeping, you run some coffee over to them. If they're hungry, you get them a burger. If they're angry, loopy, you smack them with a stick. That is one of the most satisfying things in the game. And if they're dead, you shock them back to life. It's all a very opaque commentary on management keeping developers working soul-crushing hours churning out a corporate product, rather than a labor of love and art. There's also this little pig that runs around, and if you touch it, you have to button mash yourself out of it. The goal is to keep all of your employees working as much as possible to finish the game, the big bar at the top, before the timer runs out. The more employees have status effects, the slower your progress on the game goes, and that's kind of the whole thing. There are 3 minigames that pop up randomly and halt progress until they're completed. The internet can go down, so you have to go over to the router and beat it with a hammer in a QTE minigame until it comes back up. If a delivery drone comes, you have to play this catch and release game to hit it 3 times to make it go away. That's actually a lot like Free Fall on the NES. And you get these sort of customer support phone calls and 3 options to respond to a customer query with. I'm not really sure how this one works. Sometimes you get more than one question, which I assume means you chose the wrong answer. I usually pick the most cynical answer and then the lady goes away. These conversations are kind of funny, but they're heavily repeated. You can get the same conversation twice in a row right after answering one. During the game, your developers will explode coins for you to pick up. These are used to buy upgrades in between rounds. Unfortunately, Fork Parker is one extremely slow walker, which is probably my biggest gripe about the game. In something like Overcooked, you're dashing around, trying to handle multiple things at once. It's chaotic and exciting because you have to multitask as fast as possible. In Crunchout, there's really only one choice you have to make. Do I fix more developer ailments, or do I try to collect more money? Sometimes that choice presents itself as, do I take a longer path to collect money while I fix this ailment, because more money spawns at the bottom of the screen, but all the ailment fixers are at the top of the screen? Well, I'm lying, because there isn't really a choice at all. Because you walk so slow, your only option is to keep fixing status ailments. Money is just a bonus. Keeping your developers working is how you win the level. If you take the long route a couple too many times, the problems your developers have can quickly snowball out of control and doom you. So what's the solution to this? Well, the upgrades in between levels. You can buy permanent upgrades to your appliances, so your coffee will regenerate faster, for example, but you can also buy one-time upgrades that only affect the next level. There are about a dozen of these, but basically they either give you more time or more money drops. And then there's the most important single-use item in the game, the shoes, the speed shoes, the wing somethings, whatever they are. These shoes allow you to run by holding Y in the next level. I don't want to say that this breaks the game, but it's like having the P-Wing in a Super Mario Bros. 3 level. With the shoes, you'll nearly be instantly dealing with ailments as soon as they pop up because the levels are more or less balanced around walking speed. And you'll also have all this newfound free time to pick up all that money that you've been ignoring while you were at walking speed. Combine this with a cheap power-up that makes more money drop, and despite the shoes being very expensive, they always pay for themselves, and it makes the game pretty simple. And that's kind of the problem with Crunchout. I can feel inconsistent at walking speed. Like either, okay, I'm on top of it, or how am I supposed to deal with 6 problems at once? I literally can't run that fast and new stuff is popping up all the time. Or I'm at running speed and I'll probably never even have 2 things to deal with at the same time, and it becomes a Fisher-Price game of, oh, I see Z's, go to the coffee, I see crazy eyes, go to the golf club and give him a whack. It's a management game, but it's not a strategic management game. Dealing with whatever the next shortest path problem is always going to be the next option, because all 4 of the problems are essentially the same thing. Overcooked is pure chaos. Every level throws this wrench into your path that makes falling into a pattern almost impossible. Diner Dash piles on complexity and ramps up in difficulty to a level where things are basically happening as fast as you can click, and you have to reach this sort of zen to power through. In Crunch Out, I mean, I guess you run around the pig, you take the path that the pig isn't on. I mean, if you touch the pig, that's not really a big deal, but mostly you want to run around him. Other than that, every level is pretty much the same. I have to give credit for the humorous cutscenes in between levels where Fork Parker dreams up the most artistically bankrupt, unfinished, cash-grabbing games possible, while chasing the industry leader, and occasionally the one developer who speaks up with a good idea gets defenestrated. I also love seeing aftermarket games in genres that were poorly represented on a particular console, and this style of management game sure isn't represented well on the Super Nintendo. But as much as I want to like this game, it's just, The graphics are pleasing, the music kind of isn't, and the gameplay isn't exciting or strategic, it's just kinda tedious. You'll get a few laughs out of the cutscenes, but that's probably it, and after you beat this game in about 90 minutes, I'm fairly certain that most people will never put this into their Super Nintendo again. The game sells for $50 complete, or you can get the, I'm gonna say, ridiculously overpriced and kind of against the thing Devolver stands for, $150 special edition, which has a couple LEDs in the cart that light up the title. All of Devolver's share of the profits go towards Take This, a non-profit that supports mental health in the gaming industry, so at least there's that. You know, it's an aftermarket game for the Super Nintendo, a console that doesn't get nearly as much love as the NES or ColecoVision or Atari 2600, and it's a novel genre for that console, it's a unique, funny theme, and it's a collaboration with a really likable video game publisher. I totally get why you want to buy this game. I mean, hell, those are all the reasons that I bought the thing. But if you're buying it for the gameplay, Crunch Out will probably disappoint. It's just not very good. Thanks for watching.